Hamza doesn't read philosophy. He doesn't read Nietzsche. That's why Hamza's advice, it lacks depth. If you want true depth, philosophical profundity, come to me, come to this channel. I will give you not only practical self-improvement advice, which you could find elsewhere, but the reason my content is better is because I add depth through philosophical vigor and knowledge. What's up, bro? So this is going to be a really important video. That's why I brought back the pink bunny ears. If you know, you know. Longtime fans will know. Subconsciously, I've been thinking about this topic for a long time. And I think I'm going to make the title, Only Weak Men Fear Contradiction. If you've been following some of these self-improvement YouTubers, the one I'm thinking of is Hamza. He constantly contradicts himself, but he sees it as a bad thing because he's weak internally. He follows the herd morality. I've been reading Beyond Good and Evil. I have it here next to me. The Gay Science is my favorite. I also have it here, but I think actually Beyond Good and Evil is better. It's his more mature philosophy. That's what I'm going to be reading on my birthday trip this week, and I'll make a few videos about passage 36, which is actually, it's so crazy. It's like this weird synchronicity, but passage 36 from Beyond Good and Evil is the most important passage I think that he's ever written. It's about will to power, and I'm turning 36, and I'll read passage 36 in Croatia, my homeland, this weekend actually. So look forward to that. But anyway, back to weak men contradicting themselves, and they feel ashamed of it. They might apologize, or they'll make excuses for why they're contradictory. But Nietzsche said that truth is contradictory. Reality is full of contradiction and paradox. So human nature is full of contradiction. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's normal and natural. Only the herd morality says that you're like fake, or you're a hypocrite if you contradict yourself, because the herd, they want reality to be this clean and neat thing where it's just like, these are the facts, this is what's true, and that will always be true. And that's not how reality works. That's not how truth works, because truth, as Nietzsche put it, is full of contradiction and paradox. If there's no contradiction in your philosophy, that means you're not anywhere near the truth. Existence and life, it's chaos, and we want to make it an orderly, nice, neat, clean little thing, but that's not what it is. We have to accept and love the fact that life is contradiction. Human nature is contradiction, especially for guys like us. If you're watching videos like this, self-improvement videos, I mean, my whole channel is about becoming a god among men. You need to realize that you're on the path of most resistance. So you overcoming resistance, this is what makes you more powerful. And part of this resistance is going to be the common person's view of reality of the world, that it should be one thing forever and never change. That's not life. Life is constantly changing. Existence and nature and reality is a constant flux. It's dynamic. It's always becoming something. You are not a human being. You are a human becoming. You're always becoming something. You're not a static thing. I keep not saying what the Nietzsche quote, it's not a direct quote, but basically he said, the self, who you are, is not one thing. You don't have one self. You're not a singular self. You're a multiplicity, a plurality of selves, of different drives and impulses and instincts. And these are competing instincts. They're competing drives. So you might have the drive to go out and get drunk and have casual sex. This is like your sex drive, your desire for fun and enjoyment and pleasure. But then you also have a drive, which is like your drive for ascent. So you want to be disciplined. You want to wake up early and be sober and do hard things that make you better. These are competing drives. And in any given moment, you have so many different drives. One of them will be the strongest. So you're not just one thing. You're a big arrangement of different power vectors. And you are full of these competing drives which make up your overall singular will. The will is like consciousness, basically. The will is like the only thing that exists. And everything else is just phenomena. Everything else is basically an illusion. It's what the will uses to get to more power. That's what will is. Will is always seeking greater power in whatever sense that means. It's seeking to expand itself. It's seeking to overcome resistance and grow and thrive and flourish. This is what the will just does. That's the one will, but inside of each being or becoming, inside of each person, we have all these competing fractals of will. Some of them are going to be stronger and some of them are going to be weaker. Free will is an illusion. You don't really have free will. That's just what we retrospectively come up with in our head. Like, oh, I chose to do this. No, you didn't choose it. You had one of your drives or impulses was the strongest in that moment and it won. So if you're extremely horny, you're going to cheat on your wife, not because you chose to, but because that horny sex drive in you, it overwhelmed your drive to be faithful, to be a faithful husband. This basically removes moral responsibility from people, which is an extremely dangerous concept to the herd, to society. They don't want people to not be held morally responsible for their actions. And what Nietzsche's philosophy does is it makes it very clear that humans have no moral responsibility, that we are just a bunch of competing drives and impulses and instincts, just like animals. If a elephant or a tiger goes on a rampage and it kills a human, you're not going to put the tiger or elephant in prison to punish it for killing a person, which is morally wrong to kill, right? It's the same thing for humans. Humans are animals. We have competing drives and impulses inside of us. I'm not saying you shouldn't be held accountable and you're not responsible for your actions, because you are responsible. It's just that you're not morally responsible in some like objective, universal moral standard that you have a choice to abide by that standard. For instance, you're not going to commit crimes because you know that there's a punishment for committing crimes, which is just a drive. You have a drive and an impulse and a instinct to obey the herd, to not go against what the herd wants. You don't want to go against society. You don't want to go against the community, because you've internalized that the punishment and the repercussions of that outweighs whatever benefit you get from doing whatever crime. But if, let's say you're like really hungry, you might steal bread to satisfy that hunger drive, even though you know it's wrong, it's morally wrong to steal. Your hunger, your drive for survival, for eating food, it might overwhelm that drive that you have to obey the herd's rules and to not risk the punishment of stealing the bread. Nietzsche puts all of this stuff much more succinctly, so I encourage you guys to read Beyond Good and Evil. This is my favorite new book from Nietzsche. I've had it for a while, but I've only now just begun like really getting into it. You need to read all his books multiple times, and each time you will focus on a passage. He writes in an aphoristic style, so you'll just read one paragraph or one page, one aphorism or passage, and then you can think about that for a long time, over many years, before you actually understand it. That's the depth and profundity of Nietzsche's thought. If you guys are wondering why I'm so obsessed with Nietzsche's philosophy, it's because it's so deep and profound, and there's so much useful knowledge. So we are not one self, we are a swarm of competing, contradictory drives and impulses. So if you contradict yourself, good, that's normal and natural. Don't be ashamed of it. And if you contradict yourself often, which this guy Hamza, he's a self-improvement influencer, he contradicts himself very often, and it's because he's constantly evolving and growing. He's shedding his old self and becoming a new self with different values, with different opinions and views. His mindset and his worldview is constantly evolving, and it's evolving rapidly. So it's totally normal for him to contradict himself more than other people. And instead of owning it, he's like ashamed of it, and he tries to apologize and make excuses for why he contradicts himself, instead of just being like, yes, I contradict myself because obviously the truth is contradictory, and I'm constantly changing and evolving and growing as everyone else should be as well. But Hamza doesn't read philosophy, he doesn't read Nietzsche, and that's why Hamza's advice, it lacks depth. If you want true depth, philosophical profundity, come to me, come to this channel. I will give you not only practical self-improvement advice, which you could find elsewhere, but the reason my content is better is because I add depth through philosophical vigor and knowledge, a deep understanding of these concepts that I'm sharing with you guys. So if you contradict yourself, good. It means you're growing and changing and evolving as you should be, because this is in line and it's in alignment with your will to power to constantly be evolving. Just like existence and reality is dynamic and it's constantly becoming something else and it's seeking to go toward power, so you as a organism and a multiplicity of selves, your different selves are constantly competing, and the strongest self or drive or impulse wins out. So maybe today, I think that, I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe today I think, oh, watching porn is so bad for you. Never ever do it. Never ever smoke weed. Never ever drink alcohol. And then over the years, I evolve and become different. And I realize, oh, actually, there's a place for comfort and pleasure. There's a place for watching porn and jerking off. Obviously, it shouldn't become an addiction or a habit, but maybe there's a place for that. Maybe it's a good way for some men to, for instance, not cheat on their wives because their sex drive, their drive for sexual novelty is so strong. And rather than cheating on their wife, they watch porn because they're in a monogamous, committed relationship, which, by the way, I advise you guys to never do. Most guys are already in that situation, and rather than cheating on their wife, they can use porn instead. It's like the lesser of two evils, because their sex drive will not be repressed. It will always come out. The sex drive is probably the strongest drive we have. This goes even deeper, and since it's the end of the video and most of the casual viewers have clicked off already, I'll go a little bit deeper with you guys. All of culture, all of society and civilization, I think, comes from the sex drive, the male sex drive. Men have this drive to procreate. It's basically our DNA trying to continue on to the next generation. And this drive is so strong that it causes men to build society. It causes men to build everything you see in the world. Like, this is before porn. There was no release. Like, you can't just get sexual novelty from watching online pornography. There was no internet, so guys weren't really jerking off that much. And this drive, it can't be eliminated it's sublimated. This is what it's called, sublimation. It's transmuted. So the sex drive being transmuted into other areas, creativity, building things. I think that all of culture, everything that artists and creators have made in this world that they've built, it comes fundamentally from our sex drive being transmuted and sublimated and put into something else that's not sex. So this goes back to semen retention. This is why you should do semen retention. I don't know if you guys have tried this, but if you don't bust a nut, if you keep it in your balls, that sexual energy is gonna find a different outlet. Physically, it'll come out in your training. You'll train harder. You'll want to do different kinds of training. Maybe you start doing combat sports or hill sprints, which you haven't done before. When you were jerking off every day and busting a nut every day, you didn't do that. But now on semen retention, you start doing new things. Your creative output goes up when you retain your semen. So semen retention is huge for this. It's basically what built society, in my opinion. Culture arose from sexual desire being sublimated and redirected into other areas. All right, guys, this video is running a bit long. Ubermensch path coaching, link in description. Learn about female nature by getting my ebook. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.